Hi, folks. Welcome back to Full Bore Silver. Well, monster gap up last night when global markets opened. Now we are knocking on the door of, believe it or not, 113. Just hit it. 113 here at 10:10 a.m. Monday, January 26. All right, well, I got to cross that off. 113, gold, 51.11, platinum all-time high, 29.19. Platinum's going to 3,000. Remember, gold comes out of the ground at 13 times the rate of platinum. Monster industrial uses for platinum. Platinum's going higher. All these materials, the base metals, everything's rocket ship. We are in a commodity cycle right now. There's a capital rotation out of high-flying tech stocks with ridiculous PEs. We're in precious metals. We're in hard assets. We're in commodities. Now, every couple days or so, I get a comment asking me about tax questions. Somebody last night asked me about a 1099 form or something. Guys, this is full bore silver. This isn't full bore TurboTax, okay? I'm not your CPA. I'm not your tax attorney, and I'm not interested in giving you tax advice. If you're trying to sell your physical silver just at the beginning of this breakout, I'm going to show you a chart right now. Why on earth would you sell silver just as it's breaking out after 50 years of suppression? We're coming out of the troughs right now. This move has only begun. I know there's people selling the odd 3, 5, 10 ounces on Facebook, eBay. Hey, maybe, they have a medical expense. Their mother-in-law needs that operation so she can spit again. And of course, I feel terrible for those people, but if you're in a stable financial situation, hold on to your physical metals. What are you going to sell it for? The US dollar? I mean, these clowns that get in the comments, not mine because I have fantastic commenters, but somebody commented on one of Aaron Texas Silver's videos talking about how silver was going to go down. And if you say that, then you are making the argument that the US dollar is going to make a U-turn and all of a sudden not be debased and devalued. That is your argument. You are arguing for the Federal Reserve and the US dollar. Well, guess what? The US dollar's down over another 0.5% today. Japanese yields are up today. I will say the 10-year Treasury in the US is down today, which means the Fed and the Treasury is in there buying like crazy to keep that yield rate down. They're printing massive trillions and billions and all kinds of money to buy their own treasuries. It's a giant Ponzi scheme. You want to hold your assets in physical precious metals or farmland or something tangible, not the US dollar. It's debased every second of every day. All right, I'm going to show you this chart right now. All right, guys, here you go. Here's the chart going back to the 1800s. Silver versus the general market, SPX. As you can see, we are basically just breaking out of this trough. We're forming a W pattern, which is highly bullish. Look, technical analysis, it doesn't carry over to precious metals, especially those that have been suppressed for the last 50 years. But this is a pretty indicator of just where we are in the general scope of the economy. Silver is so undervalued. We're undergoing a massive capital rotation and paradigm shift in the way the economy works, the way the monetary system works, and the debasement of the US dollar. All right, so getting back to the tax questions, look, I'm not a CPA. My old man was a CPA before he joined my grandfather in the lumber industry. And when I was younger, I asked him, Dad, why aren't you an accountant anymore? And he said, well, working in 20 degree below zero temps with the risk of losing a limb is a lot more fun than being a CPA and looking at spreadsheets of numbers all day. So he made a pretty good argument for that. But if you are completely desperate to give the U.S. government some money off the sale of your 3 Barbie proof coins so they can go fund Ukrainian pensions and Israeli settlers in the smoldering ruins of Gaza, then you go contact a tax attorney. He'll tell you all about the 1099s. He'll tell you about the 501c3s, the W-2s, but most importantly, your 4562 form, which will help you depreciate and amortize your killdozer. Yeah, you got to be building a killdozer out back. I mean, sometimes reasonable men have to do unreasonable things when there's government overreach. Not civic advice. Anyways, getting back to these markets, Jim Cramer, okay, this detestable vermin of a person, quote, "I am a huge gold bug, but I am not a silver bug. Rejoice!" Jim Cramer has disavowed silver. Okay, so that means the market's only going up because inverse Cramer. I mean, when this guy is roasting in the fiery pits of perdition after losing all the money from the moms and pops that he gave financial advice to over the years, shilling for guys like Mark Benioff at Salesforce, who's now on the board at the World Economic Forum, I hope he thinks it was worth it. Ruining regular middle-class people's asset values by giving the inverse Cramer advice. But, you're smarter than the average bear, so you're inversing Cramer. You're buying physical silver. You're holding your physical silver. He goes, "If there were no sentimental value to it, I would try to cash in on family silver." I guess that's his mother-in-law's silverware collection. I mean, the guy's probably worth $200 million, and he's talking about selling his mother-in-law's silverware. So kind of tells you where his moral compass is. Another interesting one from last night from CNWire. Shanghai Futures Exchange implements trading restrictions on 16 customers. January 26, SFE identified 16 customers across 3 groups suspected of failing to declare actual control relationships of 10 and silver futures trading. In accordance with regulations, CFE has decided to impose 1-month restriction and limit withdrawals, etc. So, yeah, I mean, the manipulation's going on over there, but a little different situation in China. As Rick Rule brought up on a podcast the other day, he said, if you're an investor in China and you make certain promises and you don't keep them, say, as a mining outfit or something, you make environmental promises, you don't pay off an official and then kind of get away with it like they do in the U.S., you face a firing squad. So, interesting. First squawk. Silver online futures trading temporarily suspended on Thailand TFEX. It was a limit up suspension after that monster gap up last night. So who would have thought that the futures trading, the first outfit to go underwater would have been the Thailand Metals Exchange? Okay, that's interesting. This was a fantastic one, Monetary Mayhem. New evolution, old money. People keep trying to explain silver like it's a museum piece, something you polish on Sundays and talk in hushed tones about, like it's 1873 and a train's coming through town with a sack of coins and a preacher. That's not what's happening. The world isn't going digital so much as it's becoming a giant industrial engine. Couldn't agree more. Pulling in electricity, chewing through hardware, and pumping out decisions at machine speed. And AI, real industrial AI, doesn't live on hype. It lives on uptime, low latency, stable power, reliable machines, and a constant escalating appetite for more compute. You need the silver. Here's the part everyone misses. AI can't grow itself in some weightless digital heaven. Every jump in capability means more training, more servers, more data centers, more power infrastructure, the real brutal stuff. Concrete cables, cooling, transformers. The cloud isn't just building a building full of machines that can't afford to blink. Silver stops being nostalgia and starts being reality because this new intelligence keeps expanding its physical footprint. The future keeps demanding more compute. Yeah, I mean, I get aggravated when I can't upload a video quickly, and there's been longer latency times as of late with like CapCut and YouTube and all this stuff. So everybody is desperate for that faster speed. The future keeps demanding more compute, and compute demands the physical world. Materials that keep electricity and signal moving reliably when the machine gets bigger. That's a strange convergence, the most futuristic economy imaginable, reaching back and grabbing an ancient metal, not out of romance, out of necessity. Silver is old money that still makes sense in the new evolution because while the world gets more digital, the constraints get more physical. Couldn't have said it better myself. Monetary mayhem. That's a great follow on X. So yeah, I mean we've blasted through 113 here. Go back to that chart. You run silver versus the Dow Jones Industrial going back to the 1800s. You run it against the market in general, the SBX. You run it against gold. We are only breaking out of this move. It's going to be fascinating to watch. Miners through the roof today. As I mentioned yesterday, Vishal 6,000% in 5 years. All the miners spiking, but hey, remember the cost basis for all the silver and gold. It's in the 20s on silver. It's 1,500 give or take on gold for all these miners. They're about to report here in February, so pay attention to that. Plus, they're harvesting the lead, the zinc, the nickel, the copper, etc., which, hey, I guess that is their primary focus, a lot of these miners, but they are harvesting huge revenues off that. So we're going to keep an eye on that. Until then, have a fantastic day. Full Bore Silver. Talk to you soon.